I also had a brief opportunity to meet with my new counterpart from the United Kingdom, James Cleverly. We had an opportunity to briefly discuss some of the matters that of shared interest, obviously including AUKUS. And then tonight I met with Chinese Foreign Minister Wang. We had another constructive meeting covering a range of issues, as you would expect. As I said to Minister Wong, Australian interests are constant, and the government will continue to speak on those issues we believe are necessary and continue to engage with China in order to stabilise the relationship. That will require continued engagement and goodwill on both sides. I'm happy to take questions. Oh, look, it was a short meeting, but as you would anticipate, my position on Taiwan is the same as the position I've articulated publicly. We urged restraint, we urged de-escalation, and we reiterate the bipartisan position Australia has taken since 1972 and our One China policy, which includes, as you know, economic and people-to-people engagement with Taiwan.
Did you discuss the detention of Cheng Lei and
I did raise both Ms. Cheng Lei and Dr. Yang and a number of other consular cases, which is the practice of, I think, every Australian official who engages with China. We continue to...
prospects, Minister,
Adam.
China winding back blockades and tariffs on various exports?
I have put very clearly to State Councillor Wong the view of not only the Australian government but the Australian people about those blockages. I think we will be releasing the opening statement, or if we haven't, we will shortly, where I went to that specifically, and it was discussed in the meeting.
Do you get any sense from the meeting that the 14 grievances that China has might be changed, or there's any backing away from those 14 grievances?
Well, look, China articulates their position. We articulate ours in terms of issues of difference. Obviously, first amongst them is the issue of trade blockages, and that's the issue that I focused on at the outset. I think that is as the Australian people would respect, as you would anticipate. Obviously, we do raise, consistent with who we are, the issue of human rights, and that's a consistent position.
Did you discuss?
I saw you as we drove past the UN today.
Well, it was lovely to see you.
Yeah.
Just on.
I actually forgot you were here, so now I know.
Well, I didn't forget you were here.
Nice. Touche. Okay. Wong 0, Kersley 1.
Draw. Move on, shall we? Just in relation to your meeting tonight with the Chinese Foreign Minister Wang, was the issue of Ukraine at all discussed, and China's lack of condemnation for Russia? Would you like to see China be more assertive in being critical, given the so-called no-limits friendship that they have?
Look, I have actually said this publicly before, and my private comments were consistent with my public comments, which is, and I'll make those again, that China is a great power. China is a P5 member. China has, like all of us, signed up to the UN Charter. We believe, as does every country, with the exception of Russia, that Russia is in breach of the UN Charter through its illegal invasion of Ukraine. And we encourage China as a P5 member with a special responsibility to uphold the UN Charter, to use its influence to end the war.
Any reflections, Minister, given the importance of the Ukraine issue on the decision of Foreign Minister Lavrov to walk out of the meeting today?
Well, I've been in meetings. I'm not sure which meeting you're referring to, but Russia's disregard for the United Nations system, but more importantly and more fundamentally to the principles in the Charter which go to preventing war, is obvious, as is the irresponsibility of a president who speaks of nuclear weapons.
How alarming is this time, Foreign Minister, we have grown up in an era, by and large, where we didn't discuss nuclear weapons in the way we've been discussed now.
Well, I think in relation to Mr. Putin's comments, I said yesterday they are both unthinkable and irresponsible, and that's how we should frame them, and that should be the consistent position from the international community. Look, this is a difficult time. It's a time of great change, and it's a time where we need to behave in a way that is responsible, calm and considered, and we need to work to expand Australian power and our influence as much as we are able on the changes which are occurring. And we have to fight for those things we believe are really important. One of them is the system of multilateralism, which, for all of its limitations, has ensured and underpinned really unparalleled peace and prosperity in the post-World War II era.
Can I just ask one more?
Sure.
You talk about responsibility. Is it still the right thing, and is it still responsible to arm Ukraine when Vladimir Putin has made so clear that annexed territories and fighting in annexed territories would constitute an attack that might even bring on a nuclear response?
Well, we cannot allow Mr. Putin's irresponsible threats to be successful in shaping an outcome which goes to Ukrainian sovereignty being abrogated.
Minister, how would you characterise the state of the relationship now between Australia and China? There's been talk about a shifting tone, about stabilisation. Sure. How would you characterise it now following this meeting?
I think it was another constructive meeting. I think it is a long road in which many steps will have to be taken by both parties to a more stable relationship, and I will just give you one more and then I'm leaving.
Follows from that, you talked a lot about wanting to keep the dialogue open. There's the possibility of a ministerial level visit to China raised, which will be
Well, I think that the next issue is continued engagement on in the context of the various multilateral forums that we're engaged in, and it's pleasing that we have had a meeting at both the G20 foreign ministers and also at the UN General Assembly.
Just very briefly, with the absolute greatest of respect, we have the United Nations here, a number of world leaders. There's around about 7 or 8 countries that have only sent foreign ministers to speak. Just from your perspective, why is the Prime Minister of Australia, Anthony Albanese, not here, and why is he not going to the White House next week for a Pacific leader summit with the President?
There are very good reasons. As you know, the death of Her Majesty required the Prime Minister's attendance in the United Kingdom, which is appropriate. It also required his attendance at the National Day of Mourning in Australia, which is appropriate, and it requires his attendance at the condolence of the Parliament, I think, which is Australian Friday, is that right? Next week, as is also appropriate, he is leading a delegation of former Prime Ministers to former Prime Minister Abe's the service commemorating his life. That is also appropriate. Thank you. Cheers.